Did we save the best for last? Let's hope so. Okay, so hands up. Who here actually knows what programmatic SEO is? Who here's doing it? Very few? Very few. Interesting. Okay, so look, my name's Dejan Mladenovski, Programmatic SEO, SEO Director at Shuffle Digital. Why Shuffle Digital? It's because we shuffle, right? That's what we do. Okay, so for those of you that don't know what it is, effectively, Programmatic SEO is a way to create a large number of pages, at scale of course, using data and pre-programmed rules, right? In essence, it's a strategy that we can scale our traffic and conversions with templated pages. That's the crux of it. So this is what effectively a programmatic SEO site architecture would look like generally. We're talking, use this as a template for a smaller site. You've got a computer program, it feeds in a rule. Effectively, we've got a data set. What happens is the data matches the template, and then based on the rules, it spits out a bunch of pages, right? And voila, you get your programmatic SEO. So, is it new, right? It's been a buzzword over the last, 12 months, 24 months? Everybody's been talking about programmatic. It's actually not that new at all. The only thing that's really changed is how easy it is to implement, right? The barrier to entry has reduced, the implementation has become easier, and that's probably mostly due to the advent of AI and large language models themselves. So what's old is new again, right? What's old is new again. Like, this is going to be the recurring theme. They say history doesn't repeat, but it often rhymes. So one thing to know about programmatic SEO, the higher the authority, the bigger the programmatic SEO opportunity, right? The higher the authority, the bigger the programmatic opportunity. Everybody, I'm sure, has seen, parasite SEO take off. We've just seen recently what's been happening with Reddit take off and outranking all these authority sites. What do all these sites have in common? Very high authority. So if you are going to be implementing this strategy, keep in mind you're going to see better results on a large, high authority website. So that's basically why we want authority, why we want high authority, but how can we implement these strategies effectively, right? How can we do it? So what we essentially want to do is we want to combine data, right? We want to combine a data set with a dynamic template, okay, with keyword research. So they're the three sort of pillars of programmatic SEO, and the fourth being internal linking. But there's a couple of things I'm going to throw in here that will really take this strategy to the next level. But shh, secrets, right? It's all going to get revealed. So it's 2024. So that means it's all about APIs, right? Gone are the days where, you could just, wrap up a CSV. I mean, you can still do that, and I'll discuss that, but really, we want to really start seeing these really data-driven websites based on an API. An API that pulls into data, pulls it into a database, stores it to serve it with server-side render, so the crawlers can find it. But that's not all, right? That's not all. So we've got something else that we want to combine programmatic SEO and APIs, and that is Hreflang, right? Show of hands, who knows what Hreflang is? It's impressive, very technical crowd here. I like it. So for those of you that don't know, it's basically a code that sits on your website that tells the search engines various different languages and various different regions that the website supports. And generally, it has a separate page for each one of these languages. And it helps these websites get traffic in websites on the same website for the same content, just in a different language. It's also a way of avoiding any duplicate content penalties if you are, translating content you have on your site. And this strategy has also become much, much easier. Translations with AI, it's become so easy just to, put a piece of context in. The AI now is doing, 70 languages plus. So, it's becoming a lot easier to translate content into so many different languages. And, I think, Jeremy was just here. And, if you're on WordPress, you could use things like WPML to do it for you. So the game's changing, and this is what Hreflang looks like. So effectively, you've got one page, right? You've got the original page, and then you've got variations of it in different languages. I'll go into a bit more about it, but effectively, that's what you'll see, and that's how it's done with HTML code. So some programmatic SEO examples. So what we see here is we see what SEMrush have recently done. So they've created landing pages based on all these domain names that they have data and repository for. Now, this is all proprietary data that they've collected and that they've ranked, and they've gone away and they've pretty much created, hundreds and thousands and millions of these pages. I'm not sure it's millions, but definitely hundreds of thousands for all these different sort of domain names, right? So is Ahrefs. Ahrefs, in my opinion, done it a little bit better with the internal linking side. They have also kind of launched these pages, and this is a strategy that I think SEMrush launched it about, when you look at the graph, about 12 months ago, Ahrefs a few months ago. But what we're seeing today, here, as you can see, the graphs, what we're seeing today is hockey stick growth. So, we're seeing Ahrefs only just launched it, and when you look at the subfolder for just the Ahrefs top pages, it hit 2.5 million visits in like a few months. SEMrush, their traffic went from about 3 million to 20 million over the past year, and the majority of that traffic growth was this exact programmatic strategy. This is what the top end of town are doing to really get results. But is this really a new strategy? We're talking what's old is new again, right? That's the thing. So let me take you back to 2009, right? 2009, I was a humble young boy, 16 years old, and I decided to register a domain name called websitevaluebot.com, right? And effectively, what this site did is it crawled different websites, pulled various APIs, put them into a MySQL database, and served them. This site had 5 million pages, and right before the peak, it was a page ranker 7, started from a fresh domain, and it had 1.2 million visitors a month, right? This is back in 2011. So what we're seeing at the advent of programmatic SEO, it's like a continuation of what strategies have always worked. We've seen it with Yelp, we've seen it with TripAdvisor, right? These larger sort of templated sites. Fortunately, the fate of this site didn't last too long, and on April 24th, 2012, I believe it was, the nice little penguin update, I wasn't a big fan of waddles because the traffic dropped from about 1.2 million to about 40 thousand visitors a month, and pretty much wiped me out, right? So, unfortunately, that was the fate of that site. But let's head back to Hreflang for a second. I touched on it, I'll get in deeper now. So I talked earlier about SEMrush, right? And I said these programmatic pages were being created, and effectively they went away and they used their data. Everybody has probably used Ahrefs or SEMrush here before. You enter the domain name and you get data and you get information based on that domain. Well, effectively what SEMrush have done is basically created a version for every single language. Okay, so they're using the same domain name, but they're using either French, German, Spanish keywords and explanations to describe the data. And they've pretty much done this for all their pages. So if you have a look exactly to what has happened, they've gone on this subdomain. Yes, they've got at about 8 million on the English version, but if you look at the French variant, 4 or 5 months have gone and they've gotten about 3.2 million visitors a month just from that. Spanish has only come up recently and we're talking about 1.1 million visitors from that. So not only is programmatic SEO strategies like quite lucrative, but when you're actually combining it with Hreflang, it's pretty powerful and the scale can get extreme. Do keep this in mind though. If you're a .com.au here, for everybody that's optimizing .com.au websites, obviously Hreflang cannot be on your root folder. Keep in mind you're going to have to register a different domain and do all your international SEO on that domain. So a good case study of this would be finder.com.au, starting finder.com and using using that site for their international targeting. So here's another site which I found quite interesting. It's called StockScan, and effectively what this is, it's a programmatic site. It's API driven, okay? And what it does is effectively compiles a list of data about a stock, okay? It'll take the price, it'll take potential forecasts, potential analyst ratings, and what it'll do is effectively aggregate that into a landing page. Now, this here, what we're seeing an English landing page converted to Spanish. Okay, and effectively, as we can see here, it's not a big site, but I thought it was quite interesting that when it originally got launched as English, look at it, 24,000. So we're talking about a third of its traffic, but over the course of time, a large proportion of the traffic actually comes from international sources. So international, like English in general, for anybody that doesn't know, is the most competitive market for Google, right? Like we're talking US, UK, Australia, Canada. This is the most competitive because this has the longest history of SEOs actually being in a profession than everywhere else. And it's a lot more advanced than you get in other markets. So bringing forth these strategies into international markets will give you a huge competitive advantage if, of course, it's viable for your business, right? It's all about doing the feasibility. So you might be saying, but Dejan, right? This sounds too good to be true, right? Is it too good to be true? Well, let's take a look at what our good buddy John Mueller of Google said. So there was a post on Twitter, and it was just basically talking about a few programmatic strategies that have occurred. And basically, it's a bit of a call-out post. And John came and said, I love fire, but also programmatic SEO is often a fancy banner for spam. But why is that? Why would programmatic SEO be a fancy banner for spam, right? Doesn't add up. Enter doorway pages. So what are doorway pages? Okay, it's effectively pages that are just created for search. This is just the page that's taken from Google's own webmaster guidelines themselves. And effectively, it's just basically them explaining that we don't want low quality pages on our website. We only want high quality sort of content that's, not sort of dynamically generated and providing no user value. Okay, so this is one of the risks of programmatic, right? Algorithms have started to notice which pages are not helpful. So spam's becoming a problem. The programmatic content can get outdated, right? You might have created pages with one set of data, but 12 months, 24 months, 36 months gets outdated. Also, a big one, not setting up the template correctly. It's not great to set up a programmatic campaign if the template isn't set up the way it should be. So what can we do about it, right? We're all SEOs, we're all buddies. What can we do? So keep this in mind. Helpful, unique data always wins, right? We want helpful, unique data on these programmatic pages. That is ultimately what's going to keep these pages from trumping most algorithm updates, right? That's what's going to keep these pages up for the long term, which is ultimately what we're trying to do in SEO, right? The reason we're doing it properly is because we want to be around for a long time. We want to avoid the churn and burn strategies where we can. So some data sources, right? You might say, okay, well, what can I put on my pages, or where can I get this data from, or where can I get some information? So I'm going to run through some quick ones. Kaggle, lots of data sets there. Google has its own data set. We got Programmable Web, probably one of my favorites. It's API driven. It's a massive repository, has a ton of information. Data for SEO, for any data SEO nerds in the house, you can get a lot of stuff there for SEO. AI content, this is good not just to actually get the data, but to enrich it, right? When you actually have a data set, it's a way to sort of expand on it and enrich it so it becomes a bit more unique and it becomes something that is worth ranking. Rapid API, similar to Programmable Web, repository for APIs. DataWorld's open data is a good resource as well. We got some search operators. Kartik, where is he? I remember that. Good old search operators from back in the day. You got github.com. You got with keyword in URL CSV. That should give you a good set of data sets coming out of GitHub. And of course, my personal favorite on this list, custom APIs. One, generally they're paid. And two, generally less people are using it. It's actually more unique. And that's really what you want to do. But I'll talk in a couple of slides about exactly what you can do if it's not unique, okay? So this is effectively what a data set looks like. Take a CSV file. Everybody, I'm sure here, use Google Sheets or Excel. What we're looking at pretty much here for its private equity firms, and we're just seeing, some business information, employees, data, etc. That is one file. That's what you'll see in CSV. This is the most common way to get data, okay? This is a JSON file. Effectively, this is how we can sort of, get data that maybe otherwise would be a bit more difficult to get, but maybe, your average sort of SEO that's building sites overseas trying to rank you might not be able to attain. So generally, requires a developer. Generally, it's all in JSON file. That's just how the majority of data is accessible on the web. But as you can see here, it comes structured and it's quite easy to sort of display on a site, particularly if it's JavaScript driven site. Jared Codling will know all about that at the front, wouldn't he? Worried other websites are using the same data. So, you could go to one of these data sets, you could get it, but what then, right? You're just, putting the same data that everybody else has on the web. No problem. Okay, so what we're going to do is I like to call it like a bit of mixing and matching, right? Don't be afraid to mix and match. So here we've got, wait, have we got this, is this going to work? Let's hope so. No. All right. Unfortunately, the laser pointer doesn't work, so I'm going to have to talk you through it. Is that one to work? Throw us. Okay. Don't throw it. Pass it. All right. All right, so what we've got here is we've got a heading, right? So how would we want to structure our programmatic page? We start off with a heading. That's going to be the most powerful, okay? The content that's most relevant to the keyword we're trying to rank for is going to go right under. That's effectively the most powerful. Any sort of really important internal links, you'd want to put it in contextually and you'd want to put it up here. As well, you want to put any sort of like unique data points as high up on the page as possible. So I think the key, and I think a lot of people miss, is the unique data that you do have, you want that as high up on the page as possible. What you can do then is, as the page goes down, as you go further down the page, the content effectively becomes, I guess, less important for that specific query. While it still might be relevant, it's not what's gonna give it the like golden ranking juice you're after. That's why we go put any supplementary with a H3, supplementary content, which you might be repurposing across other pages. Maybe it's related sort of texts, or might be location-based information that you're sort of dispersing across multiple landing pages. I mentioned images here. All your unique images go up. Any repurposed images go under. And internal links that don't fit up here that are relevant also should be on this page. And the reason for that is so that we get the crawl bot flowing effectively on the site, because that's what it's all about. It's all about the bot flowing very, very nicely across your site. Problem with programmatic SEO is if you don't have your technical sorted, it's an exponentially bigger problem, right? You want to pretty much be having your technical down packed. The last thing you want is to log into Google Search Console, go into coverage and see crawled but not indexed or discovered but not crawled. That is an indication either content quality is on the thin side or your technical SEO is not even allowing the bot to get there. So here it is again, but I want to talk about multiple data points. So I mentioned the mixing and matching. What I've got here is mixing and matching multiple data points. So what we could do is we could take multiple different CSVs, find a primary key, and match them. So we've got data source 1, data source 2, potentially unique image here from an AI, unique data source 3. So what we're effectively doing is we're placing the data on the page, but we're not just using one source. We're using multiple sources of data points to create a unique page on a unique perspective. That's the whole idea. So that's how it's done. Now, to the PS state as this stance, right? The reverse programmatic pyramid. I'm coining this right now at this conference. So effectively what we're looking at here is the reverse pyramid of how a programmatic page should be structured, right? So I mentioned earlier, we start off with the title and the lead, right? This is your H1, this is your intro. We've got the most important data points. This goes next, right? This is what's really gonna give your page the edge when it comes to outdoing your competition. We've then got the body of copy, basically the content that we need, whether you're using a content, if you're not doing a normal SEO campaign, you're using a content optimization tool, Surfer SEO, Neuron Writer, etc. That is effectively where you wanna put your important keywords that are gonna support the very, very important content, okay? Again, all should be unique up to this point. If you're repurposing content from your site across, right, very common in programmatic sites, that would sit underneath all of your unique content, right? Reverse pyramid, most important content high up, least important content down below, okay? Followed up with related internal links that don't fit in contextually. These are pages you still want indexed, you still want the crawl bots to flow to it, to learn about it, but obviously they don't fit on anywhere up in the high end of the page, so they've got to go somewhere. That's where they go. So it needs a lot of resources, right? You need a dev, you need a project manager, you need an SEO, you need a CRO. A term probably nobody's ever heard of is programmatic CRO, and that a CRO can come and actually programmatically sort of kind of like optimize these templated landing pages so they're all optimized for that specific page. That can drive conversions through the roof. So look into that if you're interested. You also need a data set. You need a capable CMS plus the template. You need stakeholder buy-in, of course, because it's not going to get done without, I guess, big effort from, a wider team to get it done. And of course, you need budget, you need the mullah, right? Can't get it done without it. So, some pros of programmatic SEO: you can scale your traffic and provide you a linkable asset, but there's also a complexity that requires a team of professionals, and it's pretty cost prohibitive to set up and maintain. If you do it with APIs, you've got access to much more larger data sets, and the content can refresh automatically. So you don't actually need to worry about your content ever getting outdated. But of course, APIs generally pay per call request, they're quite expensive, and they require regular upkeep. Sometimes what can happen is the endpoint where the data's coming from can change. So that's something to keep in mind. With Hreflang, a pro is, you can target multiple regions in less competitive markets, and you can get that scale which you're really after, right? There isn't too many strategies left in SEO to get that mega growth. But again, it does require further resources, further costs, and further maintenance. So keyword research, what we're pretty much looking at here is, we've got a core offering. You got lawyers plus location, right? You got, band name like DJ Dejan shows to show all like the upcoming events. You got template plus industry. So blue template, green template, minimalist template, template for SEO, okay? These are all ideas. Blog ideas for occupation, blog ideas for, and there's thousands of different like niche occupations you could create these pages for. And I mentioned earlier, stock code and forecast. So that's where you've got, ANZ, Westpac, Combank, forecast, right? You can create these pages at scale. So you want to look for a common trend in your content that you can actually see for a keyword modifier to see if this is a viable strategy. You want to look at your industry competitors, and you want to brainstorm and mind map to see if there's viable keywords. You got to do a feasibility for this, right? One thing I should say is programmatic SEO is not right for everybody, right? You want to do a feasibility, you want to find a modifier, and in the Australian market generally, if we were to take a keyword group, I would say, generally speaking, obviously different business models, but I would want to see more than 20,000 search volume a month, potentially at least 50,000 depending on the niche. Okay, but you've got to do that feasibility. So internal linking, Nick Ranger's talk was good on it. A lot of tips there. So I guess this just kind of goes upon that with manual internal linking from the top pages and top linked pages, right? Using static internal links. You don't want the links to change, right? You want the links to be static when the search engines come on that page, that they see that same link again. And you want to ensure every page has at least one internal link. We're trying to avoid orphan pages. So you want a new section, basically on your site, on the programmatic pages, that has all your fresh links. Effectively, you want, on your template, you want a section that can actually show these new pages so they actually get crawled, get indexed, right? You want to vary your anchor texts. A keyword doesn't necessarily always mean it's going to rank for one term. I'm sure if you go into GSC and look at your queries, there's a multitude of different terms. And of course, the number of links. You want to make sure it's at least a couple of internal links going to that programmatic page. We want to avoid orphan pages, right? Google should be able to come onto any one page and get to any other page if it crawls enough. That's the idea. So Ahrefs' internal linking is very interesting. So as you can see here, we've got 166 million visits for nih.gov. Look at what it's internally linking to. The links that have 170 million and 180 million traffic, right? So what does that mean? That means if I were to go to italy.wikipedia.org and go to the page of 179 million visitors, I would see Mayo Clinic, NHA.gov, plus the pages that have high amount of traffic. That means that the crawl and the page is showing different internal links every time that are relevant, and it can ensure that all the pages get indexed, and they also have a new page to visit all the time. Same as this, HTML sitemaps are a thing. So they've got pages for like United States, India, United Kingdom. That's good because it effectively, what's old is new again, right? The HTML pages, of old were just, this static HTML with blue links. Now, modern day HTML sitemaps provide a bit more helpful user engagement. They actually, a lot nicer and prettier on the eye with CSS. But effectively, they do the same thing for SEO. They provide somewhere to get a link to pages that otherwise might not have. So the primary thing about external links you got to remember, you want a high domain authority, but the primary thing you should always remember is the whole point is for bot flow, right? Yes, it's important to have that authority to rank high. Yeah, we know that, but you want it so you got Google's resources and Bing's resources actually coming onto your site and actually crawling their way through. You want to make sure that as many times as you feasibly can you get the crawl engines onto your site. That's the whole idea. And specifically, you want to pretty much send the links to category level pages because they're going to have the most internal links. Authority is crucial. Remember that. So AI, so costs have reduced. Context windows have grown up to 1 million in Gemini. Multimodal generation opportunities. So, Aaron just mentioned it. We got photos with Midjourney. We got videos with OpenAI Sora. We got text generation models. It's all going crazy. The data sets can be enriched. I just talked about that. You put in a piece of data, and what you get out is you can get out more elaborated information about that specific data point. And of course, entity matching becomes possible at scale. No more wondering which two keywords are alike. Now you can properly sort of match together pages that make sense to link to each other. I think, sure Jared can elaborate on the embedding model if he gets a chance one day. But we want to make sure that you crawl your website before launching. A big mistake is you launch, but you haven't crawled your site, and you can't even actually see all the pages on your crawl, right? If you can't crawl all your pages from the homepage, that means Google can't see your pages. So you've done something incorrect with the internal linking. So when you're launching, make sure it's a staged approach. Don't drop 1 million pages. Drop 100, drop 200, drop 300, see how it goes, go from there. Warm up the subfolder. So whatever subfolder you're going to be sitting all the programmatic pages on, send links there, let the search engines know about it, get it indexed, get traffic to it, build links to it, let them know about it. And of course, you want to ensure that the internal linking is launched accordingly. Don't build 10,000 internal links to 10,000 pages if you're only launching 500 pages. So indexing just comes down to a few simple things. It comes down to the clickable links so Google can flow through, unique data that's on the page so they actually like it, they can see value, and also that there's minimal tech errors, right? Your pages are loading. It's not hidden behind some fancy JavaScript. Don't make simple any error that's happening in programmatic is exponential. Log file analysis does become exponentially more important. Again, you want to look for any gaps. You want to basically see that the bot is flowing correctly, and you're not running into any issues from a technical standpoint, and a lot of good information can be found in there. But what's old is new again, and sometimes you just got to go back to basics, right? What works then works now. Sitemaps, both HTML and XML. Internal links with zero orphan pages, right? We want to make sure we have internal links and avoid the zero orphan pages. Unique multimodal data. We want to have variations of different content on the page, right? We want the user staying there. We've been speaking about user signals the whole time. We want to make sure that the user actually enjoys the content, right? You're competing against all these other, content sources like TikTok and all these sort of programs that sort of keep the user's attention. What can you do? You want to use the correct H1 titles, metas, and relevant H2s, H3s, H4s, right? Basic stuff. All should be related to the keyword you're trying to target. And you want to ensure the pages are being built for the right purpose. This is an overlooked one, right, that you'd be very surprised by. You want to ensure that the programmatic pages you're building fit the business and fit the link profile that the current site already has. So some quick tools before I wrap up. I'll talk about Page Factory and SEO. Brrr. I like that name, it's pretty cool. Basically what they do is you put in a CSV data set and they'll programmatically, push out pages. SEOmatic's probably my preferred one out of these four, not plugging, I'm not affiliated with them. But they have a pretty cool feature that they can connect to 130 CMSs from Shopify, Magento, Next, Nuxt, everything, WordPress of course. So it's pretty compatible and Let It Drop is a little bit different to them. But that's it everybody. Dejan Mladenovski. I'm the director of, Shuffle Digital, right? Because we're shuffling our rankings to the top, or shuffling everybody else down. No, I'm joking. That's me, that's LinkedIn, right? But I have an offer for you today, okay? We're doing free feasibility study for your programmatic SEO. I know, so niche, but if you're interested and you want to see if your actual site can do it, hit me up. That's the link. Put your details in, and I'll do it for you. But that's me, everybody. Dejan Mladenovski. Thanks for your time. I appreciate it.